Okay. So at this time, I'll call the regular meeting for the Toledo City Council for July 17th, 2024 to order. Our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll take a roll call. Councilor Mix.
Here.
Councilor Strom.
Here.
Council President Bush.
Yes, here.
Councilor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilor Burns.
Thank you.
And Councilor Sylvia.
Yes, sir.
Right, we are all present. We have a quorum. Are there any visitors who would like to speak to the council at this time on any item not currently on our agenda?
If there's anybody online, please raise your hand electronically and you will be recognized. There are no hands raised, Mayor.
All right, and I'm guessing there's no one in the audience.
Nope.
All right.
There are people in the audience, but they don't want to talk.
All right, our next item is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the regular meeting held April 3rd, 2024, and the executive session held June 5th, 2024. I would entertain a motion.
I move to accept the minutes held April 3rd, 2024, and the executive session held June 5th, 2024 be allowed as circulated. I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Stu, seconded by Frank, to adopt the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the regular meeting held April 3rd, 2024, and the executive session held June 5th, 2024. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, discussion items. Proposed amendments to the city charter to submit to voters in the 2024 general election. I will turn this over to Lisa.
Mayor, council, in your packet is a copy of our current city charter as it exists since 1993. It has not been reviewed in 31 years. And so earlier this year, the council had several conversations about some updates to the city charter, as well as the consideration of possibly compensating city council members in the future. We had several vacancies over the past couple of years, and as we were recruiting, several people indicated that they thought the positions were were paid, but were not. And so as the discussions went on, we decided to, or staff presented the council with a resolution to appoint a city charter review committee. And so the committee met several times reviewing the existing charter and comparing it to a model charter from the League of Oregon City and one drafted by Mike Adams. And so in your packet, the council report highlights some of the definitive changes, some of the major changes that would be included in the charter, such as clearer languages to the roles and responsibilities of the council members, the mayor and appointed officers, identifying clearly who the appointed officers are, the city manager, the city attorney, and the municipal judge. The language allows, it's a little bit more, not vague, but it just allows for council members to attend electronically versus having to specifically be here in person. And it clearly identifies actions of the council in an administrative fashion, legislative and quasi-judicial form for ordinances, resolutions, things like that. And then one of the biggest changes, as highlighted in the packet, is the compensation. And so basically, as it's stated in the proposed city charter, it's outlined right on the council packet. The members had a long discussion over this over several meetings, trying to kind of identify ways that the council can receive compensation. And so they went with a per meeting basis versus a stipend, a monthly stipend, because then theoretically, a council member could just join the council, not come to meetings and receive a stipend. So with this proposal, council members would receive per city business meeting $50. The mayor would receive $75. And then the council president would receive $50. However, in the instance that they are acting as presiding officer, then they would receive $75 for a full meeting. And then when there are several meetings held in one night, such as, for example, when we have like a town hall plus a meeting or an executive session and a meeting, the city council members will be paid just for one meeting for the night. And then absences, regardless whether they're excused or not, the council members would not be compensated for that meeting. And then subsequent compensation rates would be established by ordinance. And then what was that? Doug, you had something in there regarding the ordinance.
Oh, that's further down.
Yeah, so in the charter, City Attorney Adams had drafted it so that ordinances can be approved in one evening. However, City Manager Wiggins proposed that ordinances relating to compensation must be approved in two different meetings to allow for public testimony and public participation. So that's the one exception. And then that is pretty much it. I do have some other highlights, but if the council has any questions, then either one of us can answer those questions.
I did want to say that when they do pass an ordinance or submit an ordinance for compensation, that compensation won't take place until all people on the dais that voted on that has been expired and either reelected or a new office has come in. So otherwise it'll remain that way until that happens. So you're really, at the least, it's probably going to be, if you vote on something to raise compensation, at the least it's 2 years. And at the most, it could be 4 years. So
And I
until
think
that
it
takes.
says until everyone's
Yes.
term is expired, so.
Yes.
So you're waiting 4 years out. So this is setting an initial, and then by ordinance, you can.
And we did ask the rest of the committee to come in case there's anybody.
Yeah, I was gonna point out that
Back there.
So I just
we can, Lisa can introduce the rest of the committee.
I did the math, and the bare minimum this would cost the city would be $13,500 a month. It's $1,125 a month if we have 3 meetings and everybody shows up.
We actually had Amanda come in and sit and work with us on the numbers on what would be feasible for the city, because we had somebody say that they wanted a couple $1,000s per meeting and $1,000 per meeting, and we.
Per month.
Yeah,
Yeah. We're
per
talking.
month, sorry, not per meeting, per month. And I mean, there's no way our voters are gonna approve that. There's no way they're gonna approve that. That's just.
Well, I think what's gonna happen is then we're gonna have the planning commission and the budget committee and everybody else wanna know where their compensation is too.
As far as the compensation, was there any other backgrounds as far as checking the other municipalities
Yes.
or anything?
Yeah.
And do you have that? I mean, you have that?
I can tell you, reaching, I don't have the data with me here tonight, but when we do look around at compensation around the state, this would be probably for the towns our size, this is right in the ballpark. Obviously, there's some towns that are way more, and I would say there's 2 or 3 towns that I found that were less, like $25 a meeting versus 50.
So will this be
Well,
W-2 income?
What's that?
No.
No, 1099.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
know where your
Our other-
others came from, but I just came up with a total for 3 meetings for 6 counselors and 1 mayor is $1,125 a month.
That's what I said, and you multiply that times 12 months and that's 13,000.
Oh, I thought you meant 12,000 a month.
For the year.
Yeah.
I was, wow.
Pays a stipend
Yeah,
and they pay $25. And they've talked it over numerous times about maybe raising it and such. But what they wanted to do, the commissioners and such, is stay under having to receive a 1099. And
What is that, 650?
that was
600.
650
Yeah,
or something like that? What, 600? Thank you.
Yeah.
so that might be a consideration for people. And also I've talked to people in the public about this since it came out. And they indicated maybe they thought starting out that might be a bit high for people to start out at.
And you also gotta look at, and I understand that and I get it, but you have to look at it from this one point of view. For me, if I didn't have a wife that could watch my kids, do you know how much it would cost for daycare for 3 kids? For just me to come in here?
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've got a wife, so I understand, I get where you're coming from, but
that's
I'm being the devil's advocate on that
public
part.
I've talked, he said, what? You're gonna get paid per meeting?
But we can.
You can also decline it if you want.
Yes,
Waive it, you
yes.
don't have to.
Really,
accept it.
Where's the avenue to waive
this is
that?
a,
It's on there. It
you
says,
can waive it as a counselor and not take it.
Exactly.
The language.
Under 311A.
it says, they may elect to waive their compensation.
And you know, the way this is written, it's the charter, you know, it's gonna go before the voters, the entire language, and it's gonna be an up or down vote. And this is a discussion item tonight, but you as council will make the decision. This is what we want to refer to the voters. I think the mayor.
Yeah, Mayor has his hand raised.
This guy's hand?
So I wanted to say, first of all, I was not present for any of the meetings that discussed compensation precisely for that reason.
You're probably still good with that.
I did not want to color that in any way. I think that what the committee came up with is for cities our size, it's a good median ballpark. There are some that pay counselors $400 to $500 a month. There are some that pay $25 a meeting. It's kind of all over the map. It's kind of dependent upon, in cities our size, and I'm taking our size as 5,000 and under. It's kind of whatever people feel that they can afford, what the community will do. And I thought the committee did a good job coming up with numbers simply because of like what Frank said. Because when we were trying to recruit people to get on board, a lot of them had to do with childcare and what they were going to do, because either their spouse worked during this time, so they were married to GP folks, and so there were going to be times when their spouse was going to have to work, and so childcare was a major thought, and the $50 should cover childcare if if you need to have your kids watched. And to be honest, I don't see anybody raising this for a while. I think this is a fair amount, and this is coming from a guy who goes to a lot of meetings for the city, but you don't have to do that as mayor. It's good if you do, but I think that this is a good, for lack of a better word, nice median line for the community to start on.
And I'd just add for the record, Eric, the chair of our library board, Lisa from the railroad, and
History Center.
from the History Center, and David Robinson, or David was the chair, were the civilian members that were asked to participate with.
Yay.
The other.
It was me and Jackie and the man.
On the charter, also, I just wanted to. The highlights I wanted to bring up is under 7.2. Mike worked hard at cleaning up the language for when and how to pass ordinances in one meeting versus two, getting rid of the ambiguous of the emergency clause and all that stuff. And I believe this cleans it up real well, and how that takes place so that I know you guys all had questions early when especially Frank and Stu and Jackie, when you came out, I was like, why is this an emergency when, and so we cleaned that language up to make it, understand how it can be adopted in one meeting versus two. And then in there under subsection B, as Lisa said, that's where we put that unless the ordinance, is setting compensation, you have to do it by 2 readings. You can't sneak that in one meeting. So it allows time to get the advertising out, get it posted, and people can learn so they can come in and talk to you guys on how much they think your pay is worth, and all that good stuff. So
A lot of the changes.
The council could, on ordinances and such, which is a little more far reaching than some of the other stuff we passed. The council could go with 2 meetings, 1 meeting to get them ordinance, because sometimes ordinances are pretty far reaching in this community. And it says in their shell. So I can see where some things could get passed and not have a lot of public discussion.
Stu?
So
Stu?
address that.
Stu?
Yeah.
Under the rewrite, the only way an ordinance can go through in one meeting is that it has to be unanimous. And so if anybody on the council says we should have this for 2 meetings, that automatically moves it to 2 meetings. Because the only way one can pass is by a unanimous vote of the councilors.
of the council present.
It doesn't
Yeah,
have
and the
to be
shell
of
is
them
that.
that are present. It doesn't have to be a full council.
Right, but
At least a
present. I mean, we're not,
Yeah.
we're not talking about, like right now, it's still going to take 7 of us to say yes. Okay, so
If one person said
it
no,
only takes one of us, to say, let's look at it another meeting.
Okay, so we're getting that out in the minutes and such on that.
Yeah, that's why we put that
We can
word.
put that in
there for
as,
that reason.
if there's a dissenting vote, then we can go to the next meeting and such on there. Okay.
And then the other big update that we had a lot of discussion around was section 9.3. And this is where we decided to move over from just counselors at large for any position. So being only the top 3, like every year, 3 counselors run and a mayor, or every 2 years. So it used to be the top 3 vote getters got in. And this way, what we're doing is we're setting up seats. The seats are still at large. They're not regulated to a district.
You can still live anywhere in the
You
city.
can live anywhere in the city, but you choose your seat. So like, okay,
Excuse me.
Frank's up for, and I don't like Frank, and I'm general person out in the community, and I want to run against him because I don't like what he votes for or whatever. I can choose to run specifically against him if I want to, or, whoever is up, I can run against that person individually.
And one of the big discussions about that was, well, what happens if, say, Tom goes after John and that still leaves a seat open? Well, whoever doesn't get put in, we can always.
You can appoint.
The council can appoint them
To that seat if they don't get voted in by the voters, if it's still an open seat out there. So
That makes sense.
it makes it easier for a lot of people to be able to run for where they want to run for. And we weren't about to go with that wards like Lincoln City has, because then you're right back into the same position we were in, where if you don't have anybody in Ward 1, you've got an open seat.
And I will tell you that coming from a town that had seats that were at large, just like what we're trying to do here, sometimes you would have people that would run like against Frank. And they lost, and Frank won. And then you ask them, well, hey, nobody ran for seat 5. Do you want seat 5? And sometimes they'll just tell you, no, I really just didn't want Frank on there and I ran after him and I didn't win it and I don't want to serve with him. Those things happen. So, but this way it gives people, in a way also, it kind of helps. Now, I'm not gonna say deter because they're still there, but it helps people. So when what happened in, what was it, 2017, 18, you had recall elections. People could actually just run against those people rather than trying to recall them all. You can still do recalls, but it gives an opportunity to go right after just the people you want to go after.
Well, I'd say historically, when I was on the council millenniums, it seems like ago, I brought this up and tried to get it on the ballot, and that's when they was informed that it would have to take a charter change in order to do it. And so I saw that in there and I thought, oh, that's great.
And the way this sets this up, so if the charter passes this year, and you have 3 people running, it's still at large for this election coming up for everybody as the top 3 go-getters. And then once they get seated, the mayor, whoever gets elected at that time, the mayor coming up in January, he will go ahead and assign positions 1, 3, and 5 to those 3 that got elected. Then 2, 4, and 6 are already going to be established after this election. And we'll decide amongst the 3 left who's 2, 4, or 6. And then as you move into the election, 2 years down the road in 26, you'll be able to, you'll know what seat you are and people will know what seat you are if they want to run against you or run for whatever seat.
So that means there's gonna be 4 more years before Stu and I battle it out for any particular position.
Yes, 4 more years for you.
You run.
Because you guys are up, you guys are this year.
This year, yeah.
You do that.
I'm not running.
So I just add that the ordinance adoption was the most important thing to me. If you look at section 31.
Wait, what?
It's section 31 of our existing ordinance. That's the complicated language that I explained when you guys first got on, and except as subsections 2 and 3 provide to the contrary, an ordinance shall before adoption. And then sub 2, except as section 3 allows both readings by title only, and then 3, any of the readings need be by title only if. It's just exceptions within exceptions. So this, there's a benefit, and there's, I think we will probably post them like we do now anyway, but there is not the requirement in the current ordinance that we post it in 3 public places a week prior, nor that we provide you a copy a week prior.
So I have a question. We are voting to, or we're making. Are we, okay, we're discussing
We're
it.
just discussing it.
Okay, we're just discussing it right now.
Yeah.
So say we decide that, yeah, we want to submit this to voters in the 2024 general election. Say we come back and we decide that. And they vote it down. They say, we're not paying that.
We're still.
So none of this will apply then. None of these changes will happen. None of
The
it.
changes will happen.
Back on your old charter from 1980.
That's what I was wondering.
And now the rest of the
We
committee,
know.
the rest of the committee can correct me if I'm wrong, but a huge thing that we worked on was cleaning this up so citizens can understand this charter, because I didn't understand most of it. And there's a lot of language that our wordsmiths between Mike and David were taking care of, because, this is just.
It's written in legalese, not in English.
So I
Yeah.
personally believe that the new charter that we came up with is a lot more understandable.
I thought it was too when I read, I agree.
And we did add some clarifications amongst, under 9.5. Subsection A, we did change some language that, it used to be that you must be to be a qualified elector, you had to live here for 1 year prior to the election. We changed it prior to taking office. So that gives you
A little.
a little leeway there. And then we did leave it at 1 year to be appointed. So there was some discussion around 6 months, but I think the final discussion came down, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, it was, we felt that if you're appointed, you should have the same qualifications as an elected.
That and in 6 months' time, the committee didn't feel like you would know the city enough to be able to come speak for the city.
And then we did add a clause that you can't be employed by the city.
That wasn't in there before?
Oh, I thought that you couldn't be employed by the city.
I always thought you
It
could.
was in there.
No.
I thought that was.
Mike,
all
you got the old-
interest stuff.
I don't think it was.
I thought it was state law that you couldn't be employed by the city.
Well,
I thought there were some state laws that govern that, and that's why we weren't worried about it in the charter.
There was a huge discussion about this with the legal department.
yeah, and I don't know that I ever looked it up in state law to confirm. I think there's a good chance that there is prohibition that you can
Because of the
serve,
conflict.
be employed. And you would def-
It's just erases all.
you would definitely deal with conflict of interest in
Oh, absolutely.
everything you voted on.
Yeah.
They did add in the officers that the city manager
What do you want to retitle that? Blah, blah, blah.
We can just call it appointed officers.
live in, yeah, I thought about appointed officers. Sorry, I wrote don't like title and that, it didn't make a
And
suggestion.
then there was no suggestion. I was like, what is this?
Wrote that the city manager shall live within the county, maybe.
In the county boundaries.
Have we ever had anything that said the city manager had to?
No,
No,
Yes.
there wasn't. Was there in the?
Rod got his hand up.
We put it in the contract.
Oh.
So a couple of things. One, Tracy, you were talking about planning commission and those bodies. Those are not covered by the charter. So if the city council could do it by ordinance, if we decided to do that. So that's something that we didn't have to have in a charter because they're not covered by the charter.
Always done We've done it in the contracts.
No,
Back on pay.
No, I was talking about, she was talking about the planning commission and whatnot wanting to be
Oh.
compensated.
Sorry.
That can be done by the council by ordinance.
kind of why this. Sorry. Can I interject something real quick, Mayor?
That's okay.
Go
Go ahead.
The reason we're establishing it now and why it has, any ordinance change has to be after you're all out of office is because of
It won't
you
affect us.
have a financial conflict of interest.
Right,
So
Correct.
doing a vote to the planning commission, you wouldn't,
right.
deciding you
I
want to
would
pay
have to
the.
declare a conflict. I wouldn't be able to. vote
Well,
on that.
you wouldn't be able to, but the rest of them could.
Right.
Where with the council, we establish it by a vote, by the voters voting it in. Because all of you would have a conflict of interest
John.
and an actual conflict of interest, so couldn't vote on it.
So can we put out there to the voters, if you don't vote this in, you're gonna be stuck with that other piece of garbage?
No.
No, but you can tell people that.
Whatever you want. So- And then we had to go, never mind, I was just gonna complain, but I'm over it.
Jackie,
Yes,
how you word that to people is entirely up to you and your purview. Okay. But you are correct, is that if this revision is not voted in by the voters, we revert back to the one from 93. Okay. And that's probably something we should point out to people and make sure that they read both so that they understand what the differences are. I know that's going to take a lot of time on our part, but I think it's important. And I know we're going to get asked about the compensation. So be ready to talk to people about it and what we do and those type of things. How many meetings you all have to attend outside of this, right? We all have committee meetings. We have training sessions to attend and all the other things. So make sure that is understood.
But Rob,
You know,
this
one of
doesn't compensate for those.
No, we're only.
No,
compensated for
no,
the
but
city.
that's just it. That this job is more than just showing up three times a month. Okay? That there are other things that we have to do within our purview.
Yeah, so if you're going to 6 meetings,
It doesn't matter.
you're only gonna
Doesn't
get
matter.
compensated for one.
City council business
Right.
only.
Yeah.
If you've got meetings, say on Tuesday with all your subcommittees, you don't get paid for that.
Right,
It is for city
Exactly.
council
Yeah.
business.
and that's what,
Wow.
that's the way it was
Wow.
spelled out. Yeah.
Right.
And that was a big part of the conversation is,
Yeah.
like, say, the mayor, he's got all these meetings he attends to. We want to make sure that they understand that he's not gonna get paid for every single meeting.
Yes.
It's a one-time pay for city business only, and that's it. You could go to a dozen meetings a day. You're only gonna get one.
Well, I mean, some of those other meetings could be considered city business, but this specifically, that is only city council
This
meeting.
specifically defines what those meetings are.
Well, and I would say like if, you know, we had to call a special meeting in some day, that would be a paid meeting because it's city business.
Right, that's the city.
So you could get 4 paid meetings in a month if we had a special meeting.
Right. So for example, the ice storm, if it would have been so bad that we'd had to call a special meeting to declare a state of emergency that day, that's when you'd have that special meeting. Right? And those are, you know, but those are so rare, right? That they're not going to be on the radar. They're just going to be, oh my God, this is what happened.
Meetings such as goal settings, town
Right, goal
halls.
settings
would
don't
be-
count. Town halls don't count unless they're on the day of a regular city council meeting. So,
Neither do budget committee meetings.
right.
Get a clarification on this, I think it's 9.8, the vacancies on there. It's under declaration by the city council after incumbents, and number 5, the conviction of a misdemeanor or felony disqualifies you.
While in office.
While in office,
While in office.
because where's the,
Page 12 of 14.
it's upon the incumbents or upon declaration of the city council after the incumbent's conviction of a misdemeanor or a felony crime.
Yeah.
So you would have to be sitting here, be convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony, and the council decide
Whether you get booted or not.
to boot you.
Okay, so it's under the council decision.
So council,
It's not automatic.
it's the council decision, it's not automatic, and it has nothing to do with I'm a felon, I've served my time, I'm off probation, I've got all my rights back. I can still serve on the council.
Okay, I wanted to get that clarified.
So
That was, yeah.
For instance, you're serving on council, you get a DUI, and it's while you've been in office, the council could come back and possibly vote you off because once you got convicted of that DUI.
That was as long as it wasn't disqualified somebody else.
No, and that was raised in our discussion,
Big time.
counselor, and it's because it's that sub B upon declaration by the city council after the incumbents. Then you go down to 5, conviction of a misdemeanor or felony crime.
That's cute.
And the reason being is because people may have had a past, but their past doesn't determine who they are today.
Right, that,
And, you know, I mean, I'm one of them, I've got a past, but that's decades old.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that it was stated in their app while you're on the seat, because your past doesn't dictate what you're.
and it doesn't preclude you from running for any of the seats.
Exactly.
No, that's great. And that's, us sitting down the public and talking about this, we should get this right.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then one other change to note on 9.11, filling a vacancy of the mayor's seat. It identifies the council president will serve as the mayor pro tem until the council can convene and elect him Sunday or from the seat of the incumbent. Versus currently as it stands, it's just the council can decide to open up the recruitment to anybody in the city who's probably never served in local government. And so this kind of,
Biggest thing that we were saying there, and I think the committee was getting at, is they didn't want it to be where a mayor could be appointed. A mayor should be somebody who has already gone through the election process. And
So
that was their thought behind it.
back in, there was a time not long ago, we had a recall and the mayor was recalled. And there was some question as to how we were gonna respond to that. And whether or not there would be somebody appointed and there was questions about that. How is that gonna be handled?
And
So
this spells out
And
now.
did the charter answer your questions?
I kind of did at the time, but it took a little.
Not really,
I don't think that was- I think that was the incident that Rod was talking about, brought that up as an explanatory part.
The incident I was referring to is back when Mayor Branstetter passed away 4 months
You're
into
right. You're right.
And there was no real clear definition of how to handle that within the charter. What we did is I went from council president to mayor pro tem until about 5 months later when we selected Jim Chambers from the council to serve the rest of her term. And then we appointed a counselor to take Jim's place on the council.
Now, the only downfall to that system is, let's say you just got elected as a counselor and then you get elected by your counselor peers to be mayor. Now you're on a 2-year term instead of your 4-year term, because you'll take over that mayor's term.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but technically, if you're asked to be mayor by the council, you don't have to take it.
right.
Right.
You can decline it, so you can just say, no, sorry, move on to the next person to be mayor.
That's, I don't think by,
Potato.
you know, the mayor's seat is empty and you guys all elect to make Jackie the mayor. She doesn't have to take it.
Can't do that. She knows where I live.
You can't compel her to do it, or any of you. You just sit in your 4-year term
So then-
and runs.
If nobody got elected, your president-elect is gonna act mayor pro tem until they can ever convene and elect.
So that happens, yep.
so
Any other-
council. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, are there any other questions or comments on the document?
I have one on, and it may be nitpicky, but I just know how people are. It's page 19 of the packet, page 12 of the charter. And it's back to talking about under upon declaration by the city council after the incumbents. Number 3, ceasing to reside in the city. Should we define like within the city limits, within, that's what it is?
It's a city.
I know.
Oh, on here you mean.
That is the standard definition,
I'm
is that
just,
city refers to the city limits.
there's a lot of people getting mail that says Toledo, but they're not in city limits, so that's kind of nebulous.
I mean, parts of Skyline Drive are not considered part of the city, but I wouldn't say they don't live in the city. I mean, they don't qualify
I
because they're
mean,
not.
Doug couldn't serve on city council if he wasn't, because he lives
Right,
outside.
it's the legal boundaries of the
So if you
city.
go to the city's defined under chapter 1, so it defines our boundaries and I guess, so when you're going through the charter, it's when you're, any time cities referred to, it's what its boundaries are referred to within. I understand what you're saying.
But if you think that's enough, then, you know,
Yeah, I think since city's already defined, it should be covered. I mean, there is a definition of it.
that was the only thing I saw, and like, I can see people being like, but I live in Toledo, look at my mail, you know, it's like, but no, you don't, because you're outside city limits. Yeah.
And then I just wanted to draw your attention to 10.9, the very last of the charter. Something everybody felt was important because this last one went 30-some years.
31 years.
This charter will mandate us that we need to review it every 10 years, and it also spells out who will serve on that committee. So, to look over the charter and at least review it. Doesn't mean it has to be rewritten, doesn't mean, but they need to review it and look at it every 10 years at a minimum.
That's fair. I agree with that.
This makes me feel really old. Graduated from high school in 1993.
You just made me feel old. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and
Get over
Right?
it, Tracy.
on this charter, we actually had 4 community members instead of just 3.
Well, and that's a minimum, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the goal there was trying to make it equal amount of council and equal amount of community.
It says minimum, right?
It says at least.
Please.
At least,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think Stu had a question too.
Yeah, on 3.4 under the mayor, as far as recommending people to the commissions and such on there, it says the mayor recommends appointments of individuals to the city commissions and committees. It's kind of the same as what's in our current charter. So that stays approximately the same. I mean, city councilors can ask people and such on there, but they have to get recommended by the mayor.
The mayor does the actual appointment.
Yeah.
You can bring names, you can bring names to Rod.
Yeah. And he does the.
Yeah, Stu, the way we've always interpreted that, at least over the last 20 plus years, is that if a counselor has someone in mind, they let the mayor know. And then, maybe they're the first one and the only one on the list. So that's who they go with. If there's several of them, let's have the interview process and see, but the mayor just, at least in my time and other people's time that I've seen, people don't just willy-nilly appoint people. And like I do with you guys, I always ask if you think this is an okay person before I do it.
And again, it's,
Breathing?
and again, it's his recommendation to appoint. You guys still have to consent.
Yeah.
The council has to.
Right.
It was in the old one and I saw it in this one and I thought, they were gonna tweak something there.
So council, for tonight, this was on the agenda just as a discussion only. If anybody has any other comments on the charter that they would like to bring up for either kind of rewording or revamping or reconsideration, bring it up tonight.
Item.
Yeah, or we can bring it the next meeting as well.
What's the final date we have to have it?
I was looking at the calendar and so, once we present it for people to the council, it will have to be in a resolution format with a ballot title and explanatory statement. Following that, we'll have an appeal period for 7 days that we have to post it in the newspaper and on our web. So configuring all that at the very, very latest, in case the council has any other amendments, the very latest that we can have this approved is on August 7th. That'll give me time to get it to the newspaper and such. But if the council does any changes or anything further to discuss, we can try to bring it back next week on the 24th with a resolution.
What's your preference, council?
Right? I think if it's ready, the 24th, I'd ask anybody in the audience if they've got some comments.
From the committee?
I think it's ready to go.
Yeah, I think you guys, we were happy with it, so.
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
I like the idea of going through there in the way that you put the numbers and such on there, so I can refer to things rather than just having to look.
Are you sure the seventh?
Well, I think if everybody's in consensus, we can just bring it back by resolution next meeting.
I think we're gonna bring it back on the 7th. We're just talking the 7th.
Bring it back on the 7th because drafting a ballot title, drafting voter statement.
Okay.
So you're saying we
I'm
need a
gonna-
little more time?
Yeah, I'm gonna be gone Thursday through next Tuesday.
Do we want to include it in the council packet next week just for public transparency?
I would say so.
Another discussion item?
Yeah.
Yeah, set it as another discussion item and make sure that that's put up on our website and on our Facebook page that, hey, this is what we're talking about. You might want to look this over.
Good call.
Additionally, if you have any thoughts, please bring them back because this is the time to change it,
Right.
if anything. And we did schedule another committee meeting, is that correct?
No.
We
No,
did.
not yet.
Okay, all right, so never mind.
I feel like the committee has done a really good job on this and brought us a product that is well put together, very much more understandable. There's been a lot of work that went into this. And I think you guys should all pat yourselves on the back. Thank you.
I'm just proud of the citizens that came in.
Well, that's why I was looking at them. The rest of us are apparently gonna get paid someday. And choking. And yeah, I think it's great. I think as we've been able to go over it, we've answered a lot of all of the questions. I mean, the clarity that's been injected into this has been good. So, you know, it's nice that our charter can be a living document almost, so that we can change it and adapt it to the times, and that's what's happening, so.
I do just want to thank the committee as well because they met pretty much every other week for an hour and a half and including former city attorney David Robinson, who's not here tonight. He served as the committee chair. So the group was really focused and they did some good work.
One of the things I will mention that I am most proud of is that our attorneys were both willing to, shall we say, work for verbiage that could be easily understood by people, not just other attorneys. And I do commend them for that because in my looking through a lot of the other documents that we had to look at, that was not always the case. And so I really want to tip my hat to both of our attorneys for their hard work on this.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not always easy.
Kind of like losing the die.
All right, anything else on this item? All right, we move into decision items. First item
Mayor,
is,
would we like to give our committee a chance to leave so they don't have to listen to the
Oh.
whole?
yes,
Take it back.
I don't want to keep Ann past her bedtime.
Good time.
Thanks, Eric.
Care about my bedtime.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. We now have decision item number 1, approve a grant contract with Department of Land Conservation and Development for Title 16 partition and subdivision updates. Doug?
Last fiscal year, you guys had me apply for a grant. We were awarded a grant for $21,500. And this is to work on our partition and subdivision update from what house was that? Mike, do you remember? I can't remember now off the top of my head. From a couple of years ago, we had done some of the work, and this is to help finish it up and get it done, and helps us pay our contract, our contract with COG and our contract planner to complete the task. That's what that's gonna. So, because it's a little bit extra work above and beyond his current contractual duties with us.
Any questions from council? Any comments?
The partition and subdivision standards definitely need to be updated. Good thing.
Oh, it's a very good thing, because one of the things that this is going to allow us to do, which we hadn't been able to do back in 2004, is actually take into account all of our wonderful slopes and wetlands.
Yes, that was interesting.
Back in 2004, at what we had to adopt then, it was literally one size fits all across the state.
Right.
And this allows us to adapt for amazingly, our own topography. So I am definitely in favor of this. It's something I've been clamoring for years. Oh, I would
You're
enter,
looking for a motion?
yes.
Well, I would move to approve the acceptance of the grant from DLCD, Department of Land Compensation and Development, and allowing the city manager to sign the contract.
Second.
It's been moved by Stu, seconded by Jackie Kaufman, to approve the acceptance of the grant from DLCD, Department of Land Conservation and Development, and allowing the city manager to sign the contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
So how come we get to vote this way and other times you have to call us out one at a time?
Because I can't see hands or anything with you little people on the screen.
Okay. I like it. I just didn't understand the difference. Okay.
It's okay. When I'm in person, I can actually see what you're doing. I can kind of parse it out voice wise, but not visually very well.
Okay.
Next item. Pardon me while I scroll.
It's 54.
54, you said?
Yeah.
54, yeah.
Thank you. All right, next item. Consideration of a permit to consume alcohol in public places from Oregon Beverage Services. Lisa?
Mayor, council, in your council packet, there is a permit application to consume alcohol in places from Oregon Beverage Services for its Toledo Summer Festival this weekend. Yeah, we're cutting it close. It's somewhat similar to previous years. However, this year they are asking to have use of the entire premises of Memorial Field between 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. I believe in the council packet, there is a map included. Their compliance plan. I know we had a couple of questions that I've sent them some questions this afternoon. I'm not sure if Heather has had a chance to look at it, but Heather is online. So that way she can answer any questions of the council.
Oh, I have a problem. When we look at the application for temporary use, it's on page 57 of our packet. It says we're gonna be eating dogs. Is fur being removed? I mean, are they fresh or
Hot dogs.
didn't specify that?
Well, the other problem too is it
Free
says
Free range?
their entire event is going to be
Do you
indoors.
have the condiments too? I mean,
So on that same permit, and I'm glad Heather's on line 14, is the event or any part of the event outdoors? No has been checked.
The entire thing is outdoors.
I think it's all outdoors, actually.
Yeah, it is. The whole thing.
good health
I
is
don't know how that
sanctified.
got checked.
I know, I wish it was like Mount Angel.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Outdoors is better.
One of my favorite mayors is in Mount Angel. So yeah, I like going up there.
My favorite mayor, second to you.
Oh, she's
I won't
good.
tell Pete you said that.
Don't help me.
But other than that,
I have a problem with this open drinking. I had a problem with the van life wanting to do a sectioned off open drinking.
Wait, what?
There is literally zero way to prevent alcohol from getting to minors. You've got bracelets, you've got stamps. But what happens if somebody grabs their beer and goes and pours it into a travel mug and hands it to a minor? Now, our police force is great. But last year, I watched over a dozen kids vaping. They can't see everything. They're not gonna be able to stop everything. I'm not okay with this. It should be more like a beer garden instead of the entire family-friendly event. And a bunch of people I've talked to aren't gonna go because of it.
Counselor Sylvia, I'd like to just add, I did have a meeting with, is it Shannon? What's her name? Shannon. And, sorry about that. And they did advise, they are gonna rope off, I know it shows the whole area as drinking, but they are, as she told me in our meeting, they're gonna rope off that it cannot be into the carnival area.
Well, here's the problem. We see an application before us that says they're gonna have drinking for the whole thing.
Mhm.
They're saying fewer, there's a question, do you estimate that 30% more of the people attending the event will be between 15 and 20 years of age? They said no, but I'm not sure that's true. I agree with Frank. I do not, it needs to be in a beer gardens or not at all.
And no containers in, no containers out.
Yeah.
Like I said in the last meeting about the open drinking, I was a kid once, obviously, and I was able to get that alcohol when I wanted, how I wanted, and I was gonna get past every single authority that was standing in my way to get that alcohol.
I will, I wanted to throw out, so you had everything from them in the meeting. Additionally, they've hired, more,
Alcohol
monitors, more alcohol monitors, and they've increased security to help as well. Because they know they have the bigger area. I did not get numbers from them. Maybe, they have numbers. They didn't have numbers on the day of my meeting as far as what that increase was, but they were getting more monitors and security.
Well, as far as the serving of it, is it just coming from one area to the two areas?
What it says in here.
Well,
There's one service location. I just want to speak to the all ages thing really quickly. So we transitioned Oregon Jamboree, which I'm sure you guys know is a massive event, to the area where it used to be beer gardens to family friendly drinking space last year. And we watched the problems that we had reduce substantially. And it actually transitions the environment to a beer garden where people go in, their kids are outside waiting for them. So they have a tendency to drink faster, try to drink more. And when you put them together with the younger children, it changes the environment of how people feel like, oh, this isn't a drinking environment now. This is a family-friendly environment. As far as minors getting alcohol, or in the case of bringing it in, I was that minor once as well, who was like, oh, I'm sneaking in alcohol. Heck yeah. And that you're never going to prevent, whether there's a beer garden or not. If minors are going to want to drink, they're going to figure it out. Pouring it into another cup, that can happen in the beer garden and walk out in a hydro flask. And, we just increase our staff and we alter the environment. So it takes away from that drinking environment that's created in a beer garden to this family friendly space where people are like, oh, no, we're just going to sit down and enjoy a drink. And we're not drinking because the space is designated for us to do that. Where they go in, they buy 2 drinks, they want to put them down quickly because their kids are waiting for them. And so like the state fair, pretty much every festival we have, or fair for that matter, have all gone away from beer gardens because of the environment that it creates. And we go to this walk around situation where we have massive events that way. And we've watched the problems actually decrease instead of increase.
As a counselor, I will vote no if it's open to everybody. If it's not located to beer garden, I will vote no.
Same.
I know my town.
Well, I've been to the state fair and I'd have to agree that you can go to the state fair and there's alcohol being served in a lot of different places. But the monitors and such are right there. And they're right on it, but couldn't tell you how many monitors are at the state fair. But as far as this, in the past, it's been corralled into a roped off beer garden area. And I think people in this community are used to seeing it that way. And not that I would vote no, because the beer gardens is part of summer festival. But I would like to see it kind of again roped off in a smaller area that said no alcohol beyond this point.
So question, if that is the way you end up going and I alter the license to accommodate that, the event starts in 2 days.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be able to come back to another one of these to approve it for that. So if you guys are going that way and you have like caveat, if it's a beer garden, which requires me probably working tonight and doing a new license to turn in tomorrow morning to get you money to hopefully get it to OLCC in time, they'll approve it because they require 2 weeks. I sent them this license unsigned just so they could review it ahead of time because I knew that it was cutting really close. So I'm not sure how that goes if you guys deny it and say we have to do it this way. If I have the ability to do that tonight and have it to you in the morning, I'm just concerned that where we're at right now, that this event won't have a beer garden at all.
So as it's written, does it separate the alcohol from the carnival?
No.
No.
It's
But
not
it's-
on there. We don't allow alcohol into any areas that are predominantly children, and that goes across the board in every event we do, whether they're FFA barns, they're carnival areas, bounce houses, it does not matter. Once that area is designated for children, alcohol's not allowed there ever, and that's
But
where
the
alcohol
Toledo
monitors.
Fest
It's designated for children.
Well, I understand that.
Except for paragraph.
Well,
So,
every event is that way, but there's areas that are more predominant to children than others, such as carnival spaces. That's
We don't have
designated.
furniture.
so a couple of questions. Number one, have you done Summer Festival before?
We did it last year.
Okay, so you know what Saturday night is like.
I was not personally there.
Oh, okay,
Then do
so
it.
Saturday
Exactly.
night, everything is packed. In Memorial Field is packed, everything. I mean, it's packed to the nines because everyone's there for the fireworks.
Fireworks show, right?
How do you have at least a ballpark figure of how many of these monitors you will have?
On the plan to manage, and I think it's page 3 designates the number of monitors. I'm not looking at the license in front of me right now, but it's generally 2 to 4. The law always quoted 1 to 1,000, which is of course not enough people ever. 1 to 1,000 is ridiculous, which is actually has become a sunset law. So between the DPSST that's hired, in addition to peak hours, will be the most amount of monitors. I'm not looking at it, but I would say there's going to be 6 to 8 people, not including our own event staff. And when it comes to the fireworks portion of the evening, generally what we see at events similar, people aren't buying drinks at that time. They've bought their drink. They're going to go watch
No,
the show.
that wasn't my issue. It's just the sheer number of people compared to what you'll have on Friday and Sunday.
Right.
It goes, you go elbow to elbow on Saturday between 3 and 10 o'clock at night. That's all I'm getting at, is that you'll have that many more people there. So I guess I understand the council's concerns, and I tend to agree with them. However, I'm going to throw out an idea, and I want council to comment on this. What if they were to have a roped off beer garden like we normally have, okay, but still have all the monitors and just have the rules laid out in a sign right there as you leave the beer garden area? In other words, still have a place for if adults want to go sit down and have a brew, no problems. If you want to take it outside, here's what's expected of you.
I would be more
Thoughts,
comfortable with
comments?
a beer garden. Honestly,
What's
it's
that?
more contained. I said I would be more comfortable with a beer garden. It's more contained. You're not gonna see kids climbing over that little fence they throw up. My big thing is it's a family-friendly event, and I've spoken to a few people today that said that if it's not a beer garden, they're not going. And, I can understand they don't want their kids around a bunch of drinkers. I get it.
And that's why I was trying to figure out how to make a compromise that works for everybody. That's why I'm asking the question. Because I know a lot of people that go to the beer garden and that's where they want to be, right?
We
They don't want
do,
to be with all the kids. They don't want to be with all the other stuff. They want to go have a drink with their buds and enjoy it that way.
we do have events where we sequester alcohol after a certain time, where it's walk friendly. And then as it gets into the evening, we break down into a beer garden where it's 21 and over, alcohol no longer leaves that space. And then it is sequestered into a beer garden as you get closer to the hours that are dusk and dark. So I mean, Oktoberfest is a great example of one. At 10 o'clock, no minors are allowed. In this case, I would probably do it at 8 p.m. And so you have 7 to 8 to make sure you don't have any minors in that space. You still have it fenced. People can come and buy, go out during the daytime hours. But after a certain time, no alcohol leaves that area and no minors walk into it. That's a possible and easy solution on our end.
Heather, I'm gonna make this very, very clear. I will not vote on anything where alcohol is allowed to walk around the festival.
That's fine, Tracy. I'm
So,
just.
but what she's
By the
saying
way-
is to allow it up until a certain time, and that's not solving it. That's not a beer garden.
You're gonna see more younger kids there in the earlier hours than you are in the later hours, because I can tell you now, I'm not taking my 6-year-old there at 8 o'clock at night to ride rides. I'm gonna take him in the earlier hours when he can have more fun. So I'm gonna have to say that unless it's guaranteed in a beer garden, I'm gonna have to say no. Our kids deserve better than to be walking around with people drinking. That's just my personal opinion.
And that's fine. I'm figuring out a way to maybe cut the carpet a little bit here, but if not, I understand. Okay.
I like the restricted hours.
I've had 5 kids and I know what they went through. So you're preaching to the choir here, folks, about the for lack of a better word, what little boys can get into.
Well, would you be willing if we would pass this and send it tonight, if it was gonna be remaining in a beer garden and you could get the paperwork in with that? I mean, that sounds like what's.
Really,
Sounds like what
I got a stupid question here. Why would you need to redo the paperwork if you just agree to put it into a beer garden and slap up some fencing? Why pay the extra money and do all this extra paperwork? Does it have to have new paperwork put in if you put up a fence, or can you just leave it as stated if it's gonna be in an enclosed beer garden?
if we put that as a condition?
So
Well, then we have a problem with this one, the only open containers of alcohol that may be taken off the licensed area. I don't think any open containers of alcohol should be taken out of the beer gardens.
Right.
It's OLCC, the paperwork she has to split there has to dictate where it's at. So
Okay, that was what I was questioning. I didn't know.
OLCC.
yeah, it just has to reflect the event appropriately. So when they do show up, which she will show up, because she's from Toledo. And so it's her favorite event. She's already geared up to show up, that it has to reflect on paper and map what she's going to see in person and what's operating. So the current copy she has would be incorrect. This one would be incorrect. So I'd have to.
It already is incorrect.
Yeah, it is.
It's right. It's indoors currently.
And you're eating dogs.
Chief.
It says that the casino will be providing security for the event.
What?
It says on the compliance plan of your venue that the casino will provide security for the event.
Really?
Which casino which casino is gonna be providing security?
Oh, it's interesting. I had the document 3 different licenses. When you duplicate them, they've been carrying the old information over for some reason. And so this is not the first one that has something really bizarre, the wrong name somewhere in it. Because I had someone go, this is this fair. And I'm like, well, everything says this. And she goes, yeah, I don't know why. And I took a screenshot. My paperwork says the right name. What she has had the wrong name. But the security, from my understanding, is TCB security.
Ah, okay. They're out of Newport.
Yes. I love them. They're wonderful. They do Oktoberfest. That was the last I heard was TCP.
Lisa's got her hand up.
Go ahead.
How, if the council were to approve this and wanted to see that updated map, I believe they could, direct city manager Wiggins the authority to review it on behalf of the council. So that way,
We would have to.
yeah, so that way at least they can resubmit their application.
Okay.
You're cutting in and out, Mayor.
You're cutting out there.
I'm sure we can trust Doug to hear our voice today.
Barely hear his, but I got the point.
Totally mad background.
I think you had like 3 words come out, and that was about it. And
You're frozen now. Oh, you're frozen.
So do you mind if I offer a motion and then see what you think of it?
Go for it.
So my motion would be that we will approve this this permit if the beer garden is restored to the premises and it is not an open area consumption, and we allow City Manager Wiggins to look over the revised plan to see that if it meets what we've asked for,
With
and to
no
approve it if it
containers,
does.
with no containers allowed to be leaving the beer garden.
Yeah.
Correct.
There shouldn't be any containers going in or out.
So we don't want to walk beer event.
So moved.
But yeah, that sounds good, at least to me.
Say so moved.
Say moved.
No,
Tracy,
Oh.
does that,
Mayor made the motion. We just need a second.
Oh, okay, second.
I think I'd like to
Okay.
discuss this a little bit more. I think
Comments?
we're rushing it.
I think it's a great compromise and it continues the tradition of the Summerfest and the beer gardens.
There's no discussion, Mayor.
Tracy said that she wanted to
Okay.
talk.
Oh, okay. Wait, Counselor Mix does.
So is that gonna change the compliance plan? Is it all gonna come back to Mayor Wiggin or?
The next mayor.
Right, there'd be a drop in pay, I'm sorry. Anyway,
he can't be mayor, he doesn't live in the city limits.
technical. So I mean, would it change like so like I'm looking at the compliance plan, I mean, obviously casino hopefully would be changed to TCB. The style of operation would change. A lot of the wording would need to
Outdoor.
change.
Yeah.
Yes, outdoor would need to change. Dogs could go to hot dogs for those of us concerned about our dogs. And
Or you just add cats.
there you go.
Hey.
I have both.
I got a.
I'm coming back because we're recording.
Yeah.
True.
Pigs in
Yes,
blanket.
City Manager Wiggins would have to look that over and make sure it complied with what we've stated this evening.
I mean, would we need to come back?
No.
No.
No, that's why we give the
That's why you
authority
give Doug the authority to
Transfer
sign.
to Doug to look it over and okay it.
You feel comfortable with that, Doug?
I mean, you gave me strict guidelines, so the only reason I couldn't approve it is
Yeah.
if it
Didn't
didn't
meet our
meet
guidelines.
your guidelines.
Okay. Right.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Sorry to put you through the hoops, Heather.
Hey, well, let's just hope that LCC will sign off on it before your event starts.
Well, if they need a number, get mine from Lisa so that they can call me direct. I'll be down here in K Falls, so I will
Yeah.
talk to them if they need someone.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.
That's
Whoa,
all
Bob.
I mean.
All right, next item.
You know, how did that happen? How did that happen?
Resolution number 1559, a resolution adopting a salary schedule for non-represented positions for fiscal year 2024, 2025. Amanda?
Mayor, council, brought to you tonight, resolution 1559. In the past, it's, from what I've seen, looking back, it's been a little inconsistent how this was brought before council. I did find several years back, there was a resolution, and then I was told Judy also brought it by motion. I wanted to put something together for you to review and to approve. So we need to, my recommendation and what I'm presenting is to approve a cost of living adjustment for all of our non-represented staff. We just approved the Toledo Employee Association's contract, which included a tiered increase ranging from the base 3.5 up to 5% at the higher end. And currently the Toledo Public Safety Association contract called for a 4% increase for those employees as well. So this is the non-represented employees cost of living adjustment coming before you. I'm recommending 4% as well, just to stay consistent across the board for all of our staff. I did present the new schedule here. This is the same salary schedule that we use for non-represented employees, updated to reflect the new numbers. And then I also put together, just because I like data, we'll pull it, or inflation information to compare what we've done in past years. So looking back between 2020 and 2021, when we've really seen inflation start to go through the roof. The city of Toledo at that time did a wage adjustment in lieu of a COLA back effective July 2021. So that, doing the math, that overall was a 5.5% increase, which did help with that initial bump. July of 22, there was a 3% increase, and then July of 23, 4%. As you can see, inflation is leveling off, but it has been very high for many years, and we're trying to keep up with the cost of that as everyone is with wages. Since 2020, my goodness. Overall, inflation has been 20.8% since February of 2020, is what everyone's experienced, which is just, it's a struggle. It's insane, and we're all feeling it. So I recommend, same as last year, 4% increase just to try and put wages in line.
How does this fit into our budget that we just?
We did budget for 4%, so it does fit in the budget.
Okay. That's all I needed to hear.
So Amanda,
Yes.
over the next year, could you please look at what it would cost us to take the non-represented and put them on the same type of step and longevity scales as we did for the TEA?
With the incremental increases and stuff?
Yes.
I can do that.
And then if you could bring that back to us in January, February, whenever we have our goal setting, so that we can have an idea of what that might look like in the budget and how that might affect us going forward.
Mayor, I was just gonna interject, sorry, that in August, we've been working on the management compensation plan, which is equivalent to your TEA or TPSA for the non-represented. And in our meetings, and we almost got it done, and we're bringing that forward August 7th for council, which will address the longevity and time off and all that, and Because the last one was written, was in 2010 is when.
I thought you were just saying 1910.
No, the last time I was in office, I know.
Yeah.
So I think it was the city manager at the time, Michelle Hickenberg, that wrote it. So it's an update from 2010.
And that would align we're trying to align some of the pay for all of the staff, so we're not paying everybody different ways. And especially when it comes to things like longevity, we want to treat employees equitably. So that is something we're bringing in the management compensation plan. It's the same longevity scale for non-represented, and then as TPSA comes up, we'll look at
that because we begin
those.
bargaining on TPSA coming up. So.
And we do, so Mayor Cross, I know we had talked about doing a salary comparison this year for all staff too. That was brought up during council goal setting. So I think it would make sense, maybe we could bring that cost comparison and the salary, I'm sorry, I can't talk.
Steps and ladders.
The step comparison and that cost, and then also the salaries before council at the same time, so we could review the fiscal impact.
Well, I am so happy that you all are thinking 8 months ahead of me. That makes me feel good. I appreciate that. Any other comments from council?
You can entertain a motion.
I would accept a motion at this time.
I move to adopt resolution number 1559, a resolution of the Toledo City Council adopting a salary schedule for non-represented positions for fiscal year 2024-2025.
I second it.
All right, it's been moved by Tracy, seconded by Kim, to adopt resolution number 1559, a resolution of the Toledo City Council adopting a salary schedule for non-represented positions for fiscal year 2024-2025. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next item. Approved contract with FEMA and OEM, that's Oregon Emergency Management, to receive emergency funding for the ice storm. Doug?
So as you guys, we qualify for FEMA reimbursement from the ice storm in January of this year. The way FEMA works is they will reimburse the state and then they pass through to us. The way the reimbursement works is it's a 75% reimbursement with the other 25 picked up by the city. So we don't know for sure exactly where we're going to be, but we're going to be around the money coming back from FEMA through the state to us would be probably somewhere between 50 and 100,000, which most of that's going to end up in the council's, what was that, your strategic fund that you have?
Why wouldn't it just go into the
Strategic
general
Reserve
fund?
Fund.
Because we spent out of the strategic reserve fund to pay for the event.
Okay.
And so we're replacing the money less the wages portion, because the wages still came out of the general wages. And then, so this contract just sets that up that we're understanding that they're a pass through and we're the subrecipient and putting that all up with the state so that they can pass the money through to us.
Any questions from council? Any comments? All right, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the contract with the Office of Emergency Management and allow the city manager to execute the contract and paperwork as needed for the ice storm event. Second that.
Was that you, Tracy, that seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, it's been moved by Kim, seconded by Tracy to approve the contract with the OEM, Office of Emergency Management, and allow the city manager to execute the contract and paperwork as needed for the ice storm event. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. All right, I believe we have a presentation from Chief Pace. Is that true, Lisa?
It is not true.
Ah,
Thank you.
well, doggone it. All right. Reports and comments from staff. Is Chief Pace there?
Yeah.
Talk to us.
So what he's referring to is there's a mix up about paperwork as far as go cards that will be presented at next city council.
No worries.
Yep. So I did get some really good news today. For those that know me, I've been struggling to get Officer Gary Sumter memorialized with the highway side. So we were able to contact ODOT today and we'll be, I think it has to be a decision item to go for the city council to have $600 from the city to purchase the sign. And it'll be memorialized on Highway 229. At the same time, we'll make sure that his family gets the appropriate award that should have been presented to his family at the time of his death. I've had a family member of a former executive law enforcement officer reach out to me today. She wanted to be remain anonymous, but she said that she remembered that time period in her life when that incident happened and how much it affected her father, who was an executive member of the police department at that time. So she's offered any help that we need in putting together this award. So I hope to be able to do this for the next couple of months. I don't know how long it takes ODOT to prepare the sign. And they'll have to send out an engineer to find out where's the best place on Highway 220 and to place that. My goal is to get it as close to Highway 20 as possible so that the passing motorists can see that. It happens to be a very busy intersection, and I think that him and his sacrifice need that recognition on a daily basis.
Too bad we couldn't get the port to put a billboard up on their property right there by that corner.
Possibly. They have some regulations that ODOT has to follow and stuff like that to make sure that it's not, detracting from the drivers and out of the way and stuff like that. But I'm super excited about this going forward. It was a big struggle to get it through the Senate and legislation. And finally to the point where we can get some action on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will do a presentation, celebration of life and whatnot for him and his family.
For the counselors that don't know, what year did that happen?
1969.
Oh my God.
69, 67 or there. Yep.
When that
Well,
happened,
are they going to place that at both ends of, for lack of a better word, 229, both here at our end and at the Silet's end?
According to the application, it's only one sign, so.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chief.
And that sign will remain in effect for 10 years, unless it's destroyed beyond repair. Beyond that 10 years, then it won't be replaced. So if the sign gets damaged within 10 years, they'll replace it. If it doesn't, if it gets destroyed beyond 10 years, then they will just let it go into disrepair. So
we're only gonna remember them for 10 years.
not necessarily, I think
But I
it
mean,
allows the opportunity for, hopefully never, for another officer that happens to be on the highway to be memorialized on the highway. So.
Did you have something, Councilman?
yeah, I was going to say, I'm guessing that there'll be some sort of dedication ceremony and such when this all happens.
Yeah, and I've been trying to figure out how best to accomplish that, especially if you don't want, a bunch of people there in a busy highway. So I was thinking, well, maybe we can put up, on screen the sign, and then we can have the presentation indoors and here where it's safe. But I definitely do want to have some kind of presentation in ceremony. Maybe else any questions?
Anything else, Chief?
I have one question, just curiosity.
Yes, sir.
Is it 229? Is that where he was killed?
He was killed in 229, just past Silet's.
Okay.
The vehicle that he was pursuing, basically, it was another officer in front of him. The vehicle turned sideways, the driver got out with a rifle and fired at the officer that was in front of him. Officer Sumter exited his vehicle and laid down cover fire as the officer retreated back in his car. And then that's when Officer Sumter received a bullet to his chest and his badge. And at the time, they were wearing bulletproof vests or bullet resistant vests. The rifle honestly would have probably penetrated something like that anyways. And so the suspect was later on, there was another pursuit that happened, and then the suspect was taken care of or was terminated. Yes.
His wife was in poor health. You were hoping this would get passed before she passed, right?
His wife? Yeah, I did have the opportunity, me and Mayor Rod Cross had the opportunity to meet his daughter and some of his relatives. Was his wife there at one of the ceremonies?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're very appreciative of this.
Yeah.
And obviously they're like, this is taking a long time.
Yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
like, absolutely. And but they're very appreciative that that we're doing this.
Yeah.
So he served Toledo Police Department?
Yes, he did. He was a patrol officer. He was actually a reserve officer. He wasn't getting paid. So he's doing it for free.
Oh, wow.
And he was, when Foursquare Church was the hospital for the city, he worked there as a radiologist. And prior to that, he was a naval serviceman. So.
Well, Chief, I hope that out of all of this, that your willingness to step up and take this and get it across the goal line needs to be recognized by all involved. I'll be blunt, it's a crime that it's taken this long for him to be recognized. And Chief, if it wasn't for you and your steadfastness in this, it wouldn't have happened. And so,
Exactly.
Chief, thank you very, very much.
Absolutely. I actually make it a part of our initiation as new members of my department. I have them read that book, everything that's in there about Officer Sumter, everything that's there, the photos, everything. So they understand the legacy, because hopefully this will remain true for a very, very long time. These are only line of duty death individual in our department. So I want them to understand what happened and to understand the legacy that we have.
Yes.
And I'll actually dedicate our conference room as the Sumter room. And as we move into our new department, I'll designate one of the rooms as the Sumter room to continue his legacy.
Beautiful.
I like that.
Good.
That's
Anything
it
else,
for me.
Chief?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yep, I'm good.
One question.
You bet.
Yeah.
And I was reading through the packet here, and you had 63 different violations, stops, I guess. And you had 25 citations, and out of that, there was 7 speeding violations. And I was just wondering if there was a certain area of town, maybe Business Highway 20, that was the culprit.
Yeah, as you are well aware, there's been some serious accidents on Business Highway 20. And so we've been trying to mitigate that by providing extra patrol service out in that area. That is a very dangerous part of the highway. We've been seeing that a lot of the accidents are caused by speed and also by illegal passing. So if we can help mitigate that by pulling traffic on Highway 20 in our area, I think that would help bring awareness to the drivers.
Well, I commend the officers for stopping people, especially the ones that are supposed to be going 25, to remind them it is 25 through there, because there's a lot of people crossing at odd places.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
And Chief, it was brought to my attention earlier this week that our traffic on Main Street is starting to pick up in speed, especially after 6 p.m.
Okay.
People are, shall we say, flying down the straight stretch.
We need more jaywalkers.
I think we need more speed bumps.
That's what I used to do.
Yeah, speed
I
bumps.
mentioned speed bumps and they weren't exactly well taken.
Yeah. Let's just say potholes then.
They're cheaper. Axle breaker.
There's
Chief
one in front of my
Robeson,
house,
are
and I
you
want
there?
to stay there.
Yeah. I'm in here.
Give us a report, Chief.
A couple things. One of the things that was brought up a long time ago at an emergency meeting was addressing signs. And through a county grant, we got them. You take a peek at them. They're over here on the table. Those are available to anybody that would like one. We have the signs and the numbers. They're two-sided, reflective with reflective numbers. And so we have numbers, and we got some letters as well, in case anybody wanted to like put a name on it or something. We do have quite a few letters, but southeast, northeast, whatever could be put in with the address. And those are free. Just come up to the fire station. Down at Summerfest, one of the days, because we got 3 different things there for it, but one of the days will be a sign up. Like get it later, or we'll take their information, fill it out, and stamp it up, and they can take it. 2 of the other things at Summerfest is going to be smoke alarms as usual, and then we always got to plug away at that one. And then survey 123, which good look. I appreciate that one. No, it's accurate. Nobody knows what it is. Survey 123 is actually a state program that is dribbled down to all the departments to use for site surveys of properties. So it's very straightforward program. You look at it, you look at a property, and you can go to a house, and there's a part B to this part of the story. You can go to a house and a property and do an assessment. And so through this, you look at stuff like vegetation within 10 feet of the house, kept down to low or none, hardscapes, great. And then you go out to about 30 feet, and then you go to 100 feet. And you look at things that can be done within those ranges to make it better. Combustible items underneath a deck, but it's all part of this program. And so we can also do that, come out and do a property, and we do a check on it. Now, this process, this program is through the state fire marshal's office. And it goes individually through each one of our folks, or any firefighter in the state that uses this. It goes specifically through that person. And part of the reason is that there's a security level that goes with it. So as the database is built through Survey 123, it builds a database for neighborhoods across the state. So when a structure fire does happen, the fire marshal's office has another layer to that they can look at and go, okay, so this driveway here has got 6 houses on it. It's things you might not see in a local map. But they can pull up the Survey 123 and look at a picture that was taken of the house. And so there's 2 layers to the conversation. In fact, that's just 2 that we have. There's other ones in the background, I guess, like surveyors using all that. But we can come to your place and do that for you. So we'll have a sign-up sheet for that. On the day of the Sturtevant Road fire, Captain Musil was at a house 30 minutes prior doing a survey 123 on structure on Sturtevant Road that was directly threatened by the fire. It was just the craziest thing. It's like you couldn't script it much better than that.
So it's a defensible space assessment is what it is.
Yeah, but it's also an assessment of your structure. What can you do to harden your structure?
Okay.
Whether it be the siding, the roofing, the gutters, or the eave access, the size of the mesh that's in your eave access for your airflow. Too large of wire access will actually allow embers to blow in and big enough to start a fire. The smaller mesh will not. It just will not sustain an ember large enough to start a fire inside there. So anyway, it was funny at the Sturtevant fire, they literally did that at one of the houses that was later threatened 30 minutes later. It was the craziest thing.
Wow.
So speaking on the Sturtevant fire, great job. Thank you guys. You guys did awesome. The one question I did have is, I tried turning on a 92 or 9, whatever the radio station is at program, and there was nothing there.
Yeah, it just shut down for a while. I'm not sure what the deal was with that. My only thought is that the computer played it for so long and then finally either did a glitch during one of the generator tests. It might have shut down just long enough not to restart it. There wouldn't have been anything on that early in the fire anyway. Evacuation notices would be something that would be perfect to be on that, but that early in the fire, those probably would not have popped up that quickly. And necessary and viable, yeah, but it would have been kind of a stretch to get them on that early in the game.
Well, I was just meaning more like when I was down there with Brian, we had people that were driving from other side of the city to come check on people in the evacuation area. and they couldn't hear anything on the radio because there was nothing there at that point.
Yeah, there was nothing on it. That's what I hear. It was what I heard of. I didn't hear.
It was just blank.
Yeah, it was dead air, dead space, dead air. So, yeah.
Our police and fire did an amazing job.
Oh, man.
It was not, it was both departments.
There was a lot of players in that ball game. I get, Public Works was some of the first on scene with it.
Sorry, Brian, I didn't think about that, but yeah, I had.
There was a law enforcement presence by most agencies. I think Lincoln City was the only one left out to assist with evacuations. And it got really ugly because it happened so fast, which is natural. Chaos, first 10% of any large incident is it's total chaos. So trying to keep looky-loos out of it because, social media, blessing and a curse, but it was all over it. And some of it was true, but it was all over. And so people were like, well, let's go see. And what they do, they go down and they muddy the water. And so there was a lot of players in the game. Public Works was in there not only early, but then they blocked the end of Sturdivant. It's the city end, the other end's county. I don't think it ever really got, county, I think deputies did actually, not county roads.
We blocked it.
Did the East Junction, okay. Georgia Pacific, they held all of their trucks in the mill. They didn't release any of the trucks because, that was just gonna muddy the water.
Well, they just go through South Track anyway.
Well, that's why they didn't let them go, because they would have ended up who knows where. But no, they sent them up to their skeleton yard. And then we called up and said, all right, road's open, you can release them, because they would have ended up on Main Street, or they would have, so they shut it down.
Except for that one chemical truck that they let go through that was carrying flammable liquid while smoking a cigarette and wanting to drive through a fire.
It almost never leaks. Almost never leaks.
Just that one truck.
There's other stories with the chemicals almost never leaking too, we could talk about there, but.
Well, I went and visited one of my friends who was affected the next day. We didn't want to go around there while everybody was doing their thing. We had our curiosities, but we went and visited, and even with my husband as a wildland firefighter, it's still always shocking when you see the places, how quickly, it doesn't take much, and people don't realize how dry we are. And it just that fast. I mean, we had several people that the fire got close enough to threaten their homes. And we're not really used to that in this area. But it is very, very dry. And it's unfortunate that, we had but hopefully the rest of fire season, people will be more aware and we won't have anything more.
I'd just like to add for counselors that generally when we have these events, and it did happen this time, the mayor usually comes up to IC up where we're at. If you guys want to get the story and have the right word so you can help and need to know and getting lots of questions, you can always call the mayor during those events.
That's what I did.
And he's getting it fresh off up at IC. So I would encourage that during those things. I'm telling you to call the mayor, but if he doesn't answer, it's because he's taking a report or something. So.
Yeah, I see.
Incident command.
Oh, okay. I saw you ask. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I called in because of a selfish reason. My niece was over there and we were trying to find her. So, and there was the rumor mill, which was all scary, and we finally got her calmed down and her friend calmed down.
And that's why it helps so that he can dispel that rumors for you and you guys can
Just
get
like that.
proper messages out as well.
Yeah.
So this perpetrator of this, I'm guessing they were arrested or cited or anything. There's nothing.
There was a malfunction of his automobile that caused the accident. And so you got more information about this, right?
Well, I know the deputy fire marshal, she was actually on scene very early on in the fire. She lives in Newport and did an investigation on it. She's actually at one of the fires in Eastern Oregon right now. And I talked to her on the phone a couple days ago about some stuff. And she's still working on the actual final report of it all. But it was a faulty muffler system, faulty maintenance mechanic, maintenance team, whatever we want to look at it. It was a malicious run. There was Facebook is insane. There was kids throwing sparklers out, really. That was gas cans on the side of the road being thrown. So the report will come out final, but there was witnesses, there was interviews that was done towards the perpetrator, the person, the driver. If and what charges financially, I don't know about that yet.
Well, that was my concern, is that there was a lot of financials that is gonna come up over this, and
And you are liable.
yes.
You are liable. There was a very big fire back quite a few years back now, where a gentleman was mowing his grass because it was fire season. He wanted his grass to be mowed low. Well, he started a fire and it ended up being like 500,000 acres. He was financially held responsible for all of the extinguishment efforts. So if you do something stupid, accidental, or on purpose,
Yeah, and so
it can follow you.
Yes, and even if some other member of your family does it, it can.
Yeah, well, you're like,
so even if you don't have culpable mental state to be charged with a crime, on the civil side, you can be held responsible.
Yeah, well, this individual is
Yeah.
probably going to feel
Yeah.
a little pain.
I would assume so.
I think that's probably true.
So one of the things that we need to make sure the public understands is that 5-6 day stretch in early July accelerated our fire calendar by over a month. We've got to start thinking that it's middle of August. It's not the middle of July. And that's something that we've got to get people to understand, especially with Summer Festival right on our doorstep, is that, we are not in normal conditions this year. Thank God we don't have any east winds supposedly coming in. But if we did, that would be the last straw. We'd be right back to where we were when Echo Mountain happened. And I know a lot of you remember what that time was like.
Yes and no, Rod, because remember, Echo Mountain has brought a ton of changes. That they can shut those service lines down to prevent fires caused by power lines now. And they've done it. They've been doing it over the last weeks.
I understand that. However, it doesn't negate people being dumb.
Oh, you're right.
Just gonna say, right?
Yes.
Echo. That wasn't power lines.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It was fireworks, wasn't it?
No, it's fireworks. Fireworks.
It wasn't?
No, it was felony stupid, still burning when you're not supposed to. It's part of it.
Yeah.
As far as Summer Festival and the fireworks.
I'm not worried about our fireworks, Stu. What I'm worried about.
No, what I worry about is in the past, there's always been, I call them helpers that would shoot.
Yes, that's exactly who I'm talking about, Stu.
Yes, and that has happened in the past, and there's been some problems, and I know that the chip pile caught on fire, and it was because of somebody shooting illegal fireworks.
Exactly.
So, yes.
And that's what I'm referring to, Stu, is that we are not in a normal middle of July anymore.
That's what my question is. I'm guessing you're going to up, since we're so dry, a little more resilience as far as putting out fires and stationing people.
Well, actually, we're doing what we've always done for Summer Festival fireworks. We'll have a vehicle on the GP side with an engine and crew, and we'll have at least 3 more around here. We're honestly doing the same thing we always do, which is upstaffing heavily. Yes, and we've invited Newport if they have anybody that wants to come over and hang out with an engine.
So our fireworks are supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so honestly, we're doing the same prep we always do, which is heavy. We'll have at least 6 rigs on the roads the night of the fireworks. And in different, we avoid the field, because once you get down in the field, you don't make it out. The traffic's too bad. So we stay peripheral around it with a couple of people down there. We have a 6x6 from Siletz that we're borrowing, and it has 3 different extinguishers in it. And then we'll have one smaller rig as well.
So Larry, through the experience of having had the fire and you had all the support services and everything, was there anything that came out to any of the departments? Anything that was like, gosh, if we really had this, or if we had this someplace, it would have made this go better. Was there anything that popped up for any of you guys? And I mean, Mike, Brian, Larry, any of you? Is there anything that popped up that you're like, hey, council, we need this? Mike?
I would say having another person but in dispatch would have been, she was overwhelmed. I went in there. The first thing I did was go to dispatch and help her field calls.
I saw your overtime.
So, and then after that, I went to help out the patrol units with their stuff, and I found they made the IC. I wanted to make sure this. the IC, so. But your staff are acting very well. Dalen actually got a hold of me on her way in because we were supposed to meet over in March. And she asked for assistance right there, and she got a hold of me, so that's why I dispatched our guys to, do. Yeah, I mean, my staff was freaking awesome.
They were.
Their response, doing anything they do, so.
Yep. No, our entire city staff and all those that came in from outside agencies to help did an outstanding job. And I can tell you that the IC worked as it was supposed to. And they were comparing notes. They were doing what needed to be done. I was very proud to stand there and just watch it because it reminded me of my times in the service when you have a well-oiled machine doing its job, and it worked very well up there, and my hat's off to all of them.
I love them.
Yeah, it was a good group. Well, we all worked together. And before this and after this, all of the command staff that we had. So nobody walked into that like, who the heck are you? And I don't know your skin. We all kind of worked together. So it did actually kind of go very smooth in certain things. McGuire's drone footage that we're able to build off of that for response plans. And more honestly than the response plan was where we didn't have to go. That was the bigger picture. It's like, well, we don't got to go that, but there's nothing there. So we'll worry about that later. So it went very, very slick. It was great. And yeah, we had a lot of players. Everybody except for Yachts came to Toledo as far as neighboring agencies. They moved up to Newport to cover for calls. Lane County, Florence, they moved up to South County. Benton County, Philomath, and Corvallis were both sending engines and rescues. They never made it. We got them canceled, but yeah, they were en route. The very next day, Benton County and Monroe area had an 18-acre fire. They have 2 burning in Benton County right now that just started. He's right. We jumped ahead. We skipped a month. We've already burned as many acres this year statewide as we did all of last year. Oof. And once again, it's early July.
That's terrible.
So be safe, please.
Are you talking statewide or?
Yes, statewide.
Okay.
Well, countywide, we're dang near there too. Because we had our fire and then the next day, 2 days later, so Walport had a small one, transient camp. Lincoln City's had a couple, so.
I just gotta add one more thing. Just like the ice storms, everybody came together, just worked cohesively, and it was freaking awesome. I mean, just awesome seeing everybody working together. And you had citizens out there working. You had organizations that were showing up. Table Mountain that was bringing rigs and stuff like that to help mitigate the fire and all that. It was
Howard.
It was freaking awesome. Howard, yeah.
Howard's camped out.
Yeah, I mean, everybody just did awesome. I mean, it's Toledo. It's what we do. And
Exactly.
honestly, it shocks me every time I see it, but it shouldn't. And it just it's that.
Well, it's because we hear, Chief Pace, the reason it shocks you is because we hear every day over and over about how this country's going to hell in a handbasket, and it doesn't matter on which side you ask, but nothing works and there's no such thing as a goodwill anymore, that everybody hates everybody else. But here in Toledo, we've always shown this. We've always shown that when something arises that affects this community, we all come together and get the job done. That's what we do, because we're still, for lack of a better way of putting it, we're still old school, and we will do this. And it doesn't shock me. I just would like to broadcast it more to show people that, hey, it can still be done, right? That there are still communities that act the way communities did 50, 60, 70 years ago. It still can happen. And I can't tell you how proud I am to be a part of this community and be out here talking about Toledo, because I love talking about Toledo, and this is one of the reasons why. We are a community, and you guys did great. Any other comments, questions for Chief Robeson? All right. Brian, what do you got for us?
Well, we had confirmation today with Blackcraft Underground LLC, who are going to be doing the line bursting for the phase 1A of the Mill Creek Broad Line water replacement project. We got a soft date of August 12th. And we'll be getting about 800 feet of new high density poly 12-inch line put in. from the Stedco property to our Mill Creek pumping station. That should alleviate a bunch of headaches and a lot of spiral fractures on the AC line that's current. Southeast first rate, it's kind of going slow, but it's gonna pick up momentum. They'll be actually breaking ground and start laying pipe the week of the 22nd. Arcadia bathroom, the ADA accessible approach that was put in wasn't exactly up to par, so we had to remove, got a new contractor, and within days, they had the old asphalt pulled out and a beautiful concrete ADA accessible approach put in. We're just doing some finishing touches and that bathroom will be complete. It looks really nice. If you guys want to go take a look at it, it was very well done.
And the ribbon cut.
We will have a ribbon cutting ceremony,
With giant gold scissors.
touch on that on the day for sure.
I think you should do Charmin across it.
Oh, that would be cute.
Hey, Brian, how long is the pipe bursting gonna take? Did they give you an estimate on how long the pipe bursting would take?
That I'm not sure about. It all depends on what they encounter. As long as there's not too many hiccups, it shouldn't take more than a couple of weeks possibly, potentially, maybe quicker. Yeah, so we're about ready to post for 2 municipal maintenance worker positions within Public Works. We have 2 openings. We are going to be putting in crosswalks, illuminated ones that are solar powered from East Slope Park that crosses Southeast 10th Street over to the GP side sidewalk there. We're gonna redo that, the curb there and make it an ADA accessible style sidewalk on that side that takes kids that cross from the East Slope Park. Once their parents drop them off, whatnot, or buses, they cross the street there and then they work their way out to Sturtevant. We're also in talks with Georgia Pacific about putting in another same scenario, a push button LED illuminated crosswalk signal on Butler Bridge Road, just off of GP's property sidewalk and crossing Butler Bridge Road towards our wastewater treatment plant.
Across the railroad tracks and everything? No.
Across Butler Bridge Road.
Yeah,
Towards our wastewater plant.
so there's that intersection there.
Going across the railroad tracks, so just across the Butler Bridge Road itself. The tracks are actually closer to southeast and east of.
No, okay, so I guess what I'm thinking of is so down below my house. And you go down, there's the intersection that goes up to Fur. Or that way, is it over there?
It'll be on Butler Bridge Road and it just crosses Butler Bridge Road from the Georgia Pacific side where their sidewalk is across towards our wastewater plant.
Oh.
Where everybody runs across there.
Yeah, there's just a little crosswalk there right now.
Okay. All right, I was just trying to envision it.
Where that left turn lane is.
Yeah.
So
Along with the issue
Brian,
there, oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Where are we at with the railroad in getting access to possibly using their trestle to put our water pipes on?
We're kind of at a standstill at the moment. We're trying to get communication open with Union Pacific, but we have a backup plan that we're working on. It would involve some boring.
So are they just not responding or are they slow playing it? What are they doing?
There's quite the process for the application, even for them to think about it. We have to have an engineered plan. And then I think it's a $3,500 permit fee to even just apply for it, for them to review.
So they just don't want to deal with people, basically.
Pretty much.
They just made it prohibitive, so nobody will.
I can tell you in past jobs, dealing with UP is very difficult.
Yeah.
They're one of the more difficult
Sounds like it.
railroads to deal with. Like I've been talking to Brian, trying to figure out who their rep is even out here. And we finally got a name and I don't know how many messages he's left, but they have yet to be returned either. So,
There's a reason they call it.
It's been constant.
yeah, there you go. That's why you get railroaded. That's right.
Yep.
And one last thing, Larry had submitted to try to get a storage addition at the fire department. The plans were drawn up, submitted to the county for approval. They're all stamped and engineered. And we're putting those out for bid too, so.
Oh, cool.
That can come to fruition. So, and plus our guys just trying to keep things beautified, cleaned up, looking nice, minus the chips on the ground continually, but keep things looking good for summer festival and for all the folks that come and go.
Did
Any
they
other
ever find
questions
out
for
whose
Brian?
goats were on Fourth Street the other day?
What's that?
Did they ever find whose goats were on Fourth Street the other day? I got like a bazillion messages on Facebook, your goats are out. And then I had a call from the police. They must have thought it was my goats. So, I don't know, I was wondering.
News to me, I'm sorry.
No, I don't think it was fair. Like, they know the difference. I hope they know the difference.
Got one that looks like a goat in my area.
Oh, do you?
Is Harrison in the audience?
I am. My turn?
Harrison? Yes, talk to us about the library.
I can do that. As of today, we have surpassed last year's summer reading signups. I don't have a final end of day number. We passed it in the morning and we got more since then, but we are pushing into the 220s now. Summer reading continues to the end of August. We have weekly performers every Thursday. We have Oregon Reptile Views coming tomorrow with some reptiles. Recess Outdoor School on July 25th, doing bubbles with us. The Magical Mr. B on August 8th. Let's Tribal Dancers, August 15th, and Mid-Coast Watersheds, August 22nd. All performances start at 10:30 a.m. So come on out to those. All fun for all ages. For the little ones, next Wednesday at 10:30 for story time, we will have a mermaid. Real mermaid. You don't see those around here very often. They are a warm water species, but a couple of snake eaters. Mermaid, she will be coming to story time next Wednesday. August 14th at story time, we're really looking forward to because that's our truck spray and pool play story time. So fire department will be bringing a truck and the pool will be doing a swim after. So bringing a bathing suit. It's gonna be a good time. We're having a kids parade decorating day tomorrow at 1 p.m. at the library. Bring your bikes and wagons. The parade itself starts at 6 p.m. on Friday. If you're riding or your kids are riding, helmets are required. So bring a helmet. If you are walking, a helmet would be an unusual choice, but we'll allow it. Not required if you're walking. We'll be in the grand parade at 11 a.m. this Saturday with a fantastic float that the polymaths at Public Works have constructed for us. We will be at National Night Out on August 6th, so we'll hope to see you all there as well.
Any questions for Harrison? All right, keep up the good work. Lisa?
As Harrison mentioned, National Night Out is August 6th, and so naturally the council does have a booth. So I'm taking volunteers. Break. Tracy, will you be there again this year?
I could see a surgeon tomorrow. So I will tell you later.
Okay.
Depends on how quickly they decide to do the surgery and how quickly I can recover.
I will be there, but I will also be the bubble lady, so.
So what time?
It starts at 4 p.m. And our booth is typically at the entrance as people are coming in, and so we just provide information. I'm working on swag now to hand out and just informational pieces.
I had so much fun last year. It's wonderful. It's so
From
fun.
4 to what?
It is fun.
4 to 8.
That's fun.
And as far as bubbles, try to say bubbles.
I'm sorry, what is it called?
National Night Out.
National.
It's an annual event that's held by police departments nationwide.
It is in my, okay.
Yeah.
They do it all over in neighborhoods and cities.
And then our Oysters and Breaks is August 3rd and 4th this year, one weekend from 12 to 5. There's vendors, music as per usual. Next week, I just got Charlie Seifert's OLCC permit, so that'll come before the council next week. And just a reminder, filing for the general election this year is open. So if you plan on running, please file before August 15th. And then we have, yep, that was the next thing on my list. I just want to remind everybody that LOC conference this year is in October, and registration opens next week. And so right now I currently have Mayor Cross, Council President Kim, and then Councilor Sylvia. And so if there's anybody else who would like to.
Was it 19th again?
October 17th through the 19th.
Any questions for Lisa? All right. Counselor, have any updates? Besides that your plate's full?
Yeah, my plate's full, Mayor. I'm gonna be out next Monday and Tuesday on vacation. On the 24th, you'll have before you a presentation talking about affordable versus workforce housing that's done. Not super long. If you may see the SDC ordinance again. I haven't done that yet. And really the only change would be to make it applicable to 20 units or more, consistent with the state law. I think there's also a discussion whether we even want to encourage those huge apartment complexes to come. You know, whether we want to, you know, we may want to set up a committee, you know, do something like not have some of the SDCs do until there's an occupancy permit for some of the small builders. There's some other things that we may want to do, but we'll talk about that. There's a parking plan today. I went kind of up and down Main Street and have all the handicap parking and other parking that we have identified. And we'll talk about that in loading zones. There's a good chance you'll see the lease and sublease with the Aquina Pacific Railroad Historical Society. And if not, you'll see that on the 7th. And then just as an update, the mayor's aware I was contacted to do and Doug is aware, an IGA for the Lincoln County Water Systems Alliance. It's tied into the master plan of the Mid-Coast Water Planning Partnership meetings that I went to. The LCWSA is, the council's actually signed a resolution, I believe, in January of 23 before I came back from military leave to be a part of this.
And we were the only time.
And we're the only one at this point, but they're looking for a IGA, a different resolution, the funding where before I think we contributed, where we were going to contribute to a portion of $55,000 of funding. They're not asking for money, but it's OSU has gotten a grant and they're using that money to try and get a $2 million grant. But it's using AI to create a 50-year water plan for water conservation, water use countywide. And the IGA will involve the cities, the water districts, and OSU. So at some point you'll see that. I'm just haven't quite got that done. It's one of those things on the list, Mayor.
Well, we never not stop giving you stuff to do, Mike. I don't know if you've noticed that yet, but.
Yeah, and you know, with the non-represented the management compensation plan that they're bringing, I think has been delayed because it's not her fault. Amanda worked on the personnel policy for quite a bit, and that's something that I've been working on, and there's just a lot to it.
Yes.
Keep finding.
From 2010, and you keep finding more. And for example, you take a template and you put in the city of Toledo and it appears 683 times. So I mean, it's a massive amount of work, but the three of us will struggle with it and at some point bring it.
Well, thank you. Council, any questions for Attorney Adams? All right. Amanda.
Finance department's in full swing. It's that time of year. It's our fiscal year end, so to finalize June numbers and beginning work with auditors. We're also officially full swing in our conversion process with our software upgrade. Hallelujah. Next week, we begin overview sessions with our project manager and some of the subject matter experts for each of the modules. And after next week, in those overview sessions, we will be cut loose to do our internal testing. We have about a month to try and work through all of our processes, get all the bugs worked out before it goes back to them. So a lot to do right now. We're keeping very busy.
Any questions for finance? All right. Doug, what do you have?
Hey, you guys heard we've about completed our management comp plan to come before you that you're gonna see. I'm also working on an update to our vehicle use policy. It was last done in 2008, and we're gonna do some major updates coming on that. I just wanted to touch on the Olala water line that was asked. We are looking at some boring project. I just know we haven't gave up on Union Pacific yet, but we're probably going to end up. It's going to cost a little more to bore, but maybe in the long run, that's probably the better thing to do. So I got a meeting with GP on Monday because part of that's going to include getting a lease through their property to get over to the slough. So, and that's where we're looking to bore is under the slough. So, and there's some permitting processes to get through that. I've been in touch with, with Justin Peterson and DSL, and the permitting process is probably going to take 6 months. So we're going to have to be making a decision here pretty soon, whether that's what we want to do or not. Especially if we're going to meet the timelines on the money and the grant and everything we got through. We got to move a sewer line over there on the Olala thing. I know on the Olala Meadows, sorry. Brian and his staff are working on getting some estimates on pulling that over and getting that. Basically, the sewer line that was there, whoever put it in way before when did not put it in the easement. And so we got to actually put it in the easement. So we got to shift our sewer line over to get into the utility easement that goes across the property.
So it needed to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
But once we knew about it.
Yeah. So we have this last 2 weeks, we had to file a claim with CIS. We had a backup on our sewer that probably destroyed a person's basement.
With sewage?
Yes.
Oh.
So
Poor person.
not once, but twice.
Oh.
So, but we found the root ball. It's been cleaned and bored out, and it was huge, and it was it was a mess.
They didn't have those stops so it could back up on them?
Most people don't have any form of backflow assemblies on their sewer laterals.
Really?
That's not super common around here.
And basically it was happening not so much on normal sewer flow, but when we would get rains and things like that, it would overflow and back up and then into their basement and bring sewer.
And that specific line, I've got estimates are being submitted by different companies to line that sewer line also to help prevent that from happening.
Another line we found that needs to be lined. So, now that we have a health safety officer, we're, gonna be working on, updating our safety plan and working at getting, all of our departments within OSHA compliance. He has been an OSHA compliance guy, in his previous work. So he has a good plan and routes to give us pointers and get us going, which is gonna be good. And then later on, we're gonna factor that over to probably a health safety plan that he'll start, or and a health wellness safety plan for the city that we're gonna probably look in further down the line. So, but first, the more emergent stuff like the OSHA violations and things. With that, because of the Sturtevant fire, we're talking about our one thing council had on their goals was the emergency operations plan update. So we're probably going to start that process September, October. I've talked to Larry already when they do the debriefing of a couple of the things. It was funny you brought up the radio because we've had that discussion with some people about, you know, we should have somebody dedicated that goes up there and gets information and starts recording and getting it out on the radio as quickly as possible and stuff. But some of that's going to be in our emergency operations plan and updating those things on who's going to be responsible for what types of things. I wanted to remind everybody, we have the fentanyl parade tomorrow, starts at 6.
The anti-fentanyl.
It's the, yeah, fentanyl, I call it the fentanyl parade, but it's the awareness and eradication parade. It starts up at the GP ball fields and it'll weave its way down until we get down to Waterfront Park, where we'll be serving some burgers and hot dogs to people if they come, and they will be able to get some education on the application of Narcan as well. So encourage you, even if you can't make the parade, come down and have a burger probably around 6:30, 6:45, I imagine. I don't know how long it'll take them to get down the hill from there, but 30, 45 minutes and we'll be eating a burger or so.
It's gonna be where at the pavilion?
Down at the pavilion there at Waterfront Park. The other thing I've talked to Mike about is we're gonna start, and I've talked to the finance director about, we're gonna start reviewing our short-term rental ordinance and our processes there, as I think they can be. I think the city for many years has lost out on revenue because it could be better. So I'll just put it that way. And I think we've identified some things we can do to help bring in some revenue from that, the little revenue we have. Memorial bathroom, I am still waiting on insurance, but they do have everything now. It's just waiting on their final answers. And the Arcadia bathroom, we want to do a grand opening. I'm hoping next Wednesday, if we have enough counselors and mayor available. I'd like to do it in the morning. It's at least semi-cool, and go over and cut a ribbon and open up the bathrooms officially.
I still think it should be toilet paper you cut.
I think we ought to do the toilet paper, and someone should write across the toilet paper, "Enjoy the go."
Isn't that copyrighted?
Isn't that Sherman's?
Yeah.
Be sure, maybe. Whatever toilet paper, but I mean, it just seems appropriate. You're the bathroom toilet paper.
Especially after using the porta potty for all these years.
Just be glad we're not the Romans with the sponge and the stick and the.
No, don't. Okay, just don't.
Did we get an email on where and when we should meet?
Yes, I'll get an email to council on that. I wanted to check Rod's schedule on Wednesday to see if he'd be available Wednesday at 10 to maybe do that, or 9 or 10 in the morning to do.
Let me check it here. Great. I'm good.
Okay, I will get an email out to everybody. Be nice to have you guys there to dedicate the bathroom or open it up.
Do we need to post that we could have a quorum?
We can do a posting if I know I'm gonna have four
I
of
will
you,
not be there. I'm seeing a surgeon that day.
and you might be out,
Well,
don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay,
I mean,
I
this
think
is
I
all
can
just
be there,
happening
yeah.
so fast, I
Okay.
just don't know.
sure. Let me put it this way, how much notice do you need, Lisa?
I need to post it at least 24 hours in advance.
Well, why don't you?
So let me
post
know Monday
I can still post it.
for sure if you're gonna come or not, and then if we have four, we can get it posted, so. Other than that, that's all I have, Mayor, sorry, thanks.
Any questions for Doug?
Question I have is on Main Street, there's been a guy that had a sighting of just black poly stuff. Is that still in the works? I mean, to get that taken care of? It's only been, what,
That's
5
a-
years?
It's a long story. I don't, it might be better. It's a long story. If you want to come visit my office, I would like to fill you in on the process that's going on there and why the pause is there.
I will do
Some of it is on the,
questions every week.
yeah, some of it is on the city, but some of it is, but there's a reason it's on the city and it's not an easily fixed problem, so.
Is it something that the city council can help facilitate? Is there anything?
When we get to the proper decision, it will be, yes, because it's just, there's a lot of issues going on that our park and up that area, and that needs to be squared up, and Mike and I have been putting and rattling our heads over ideas and trying to get it figured out, and you kind of come up with a plan and then, it ain't gonna quite work, but we're getting closer to something else.
Doug?
Yes.
I'm just going to say that it is a highly multifaceted issue that every time we've come up with what would be let's just say straightforward answer to the problem, there's been some other issue that has come up to deep six what we thought was an easy, straightforward answer. This has been an ongoing battle since I've been a mayor, and I would love nothing better than to have this millstone taken care of. But we have to do it by the law. And so we're trying to do that.
And Mike and I think are pretty close on a solution that, I think Mike's been sleuthing some things and I've been talking around to people around there because it's gonna have some land issues that we gotta go probably through planning as well and stuff that are gonna, to get it done properly, so. And some of it involves working with the Eagles, and I do say we've made ground on that front. Or I'm sorry, the
Elks.
Elks, sorry. Some of
That's
that's
okay.
dealing with the Elks, but we had progress there and they're willing to work with the city now, which
They weren't prior
to that. So I think we've almost got something where I'll probably be coming to you guys with an agreement at some point it'll help solve a lot of this problem.
And it relates back to like 1952, I think. There were two smart gentlemen sitting in the chairs that you're sitting in, and the rest of them maybe not as smart. And it's just a problem that's never been fixed.
Yep. Any other questions for Doug? All right, council comments. I'll start with Councilor Mix.
I don't really have I don't have anything city business. I will just I guess officially I've kind of talked about it a little bit, but some of you know I've been having some medical issues. he finally got the test done and I have some severe spinal impingement going on. I know I'm probably headed to surgery. They're expediting things very quickly, so I meet with the surgeon tomorrow and no idea if I'm even coming home. So I might be out on some things. I appreciate the rest of the council, you know, doing those jobs that I can't help participate in and shine up for things that I can't. But I'm hoping that this will alleviate a lot of things, of course, like we all do when we're in those situations, and then get back to my old self and be able to cause trouble and bother Stu. So, wow.
You're her special person.
He knows he's special. So, anyway, just, so yeah, so that's where I kind of am and am hopefully able to get back to giving back a little bit more, eventually, but right now we're dealing with that. So that's really it.
Thank you, Tracy. Counselor Kaufman.
Nothing for me.
Counselor Strong.
I would just say that it's gonna be a busy weekend in Toledo with the summer festival and such. There's a lot of stuff, carnivals in town, so if you like doing the Rocco Plain and such on there, I highly recommend that. There's also the logging show's gonna happen, the fireworks are gonna happen, so it should be a fun-filled weekend. The parade route is gonna be great, so.
3 parades in 3 days, starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
The fentanyl thing was unexpected. I guess a good kickoff to this.
There you go.
Don't do drugs.
So that's all I have.
Okay, Counselor Sylvia.
Well, if you remember the last meeting, I brought up that I went to a CWAC meeting and they didn't have our East Junction even on their radar to fix. Well, he's laughing. We had the in-person meeting here where they all had to actually drive on the East Junction. I got a call the other day from the mayor, and I will not repeat the words I used to him.
Boy.
But they went out there and repaved it. It's all fresh asphalt.
It will fix it, but that
However,
hold it over for a little bit.
I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep on because it's a Band-Aid. They need to grind it down. They need to dig it down. They need to replace it and do it right. But for now, you're not gonna go over Kelly Humps getting,
Takes all the fun out of it.
right? Other than that, I don't really have anything.
Well, I have to thank you again, Frank, for making sure that it stayed front of mind, because that is the fastest I've ever seen ODOT react to anything that's been done at the quad.
That's because they had to drive their own cars over that stuff.
Well, exactly. But, you know, it amazed me. It was like 48 hours later, and now we have a new layer of asphalt down there. So at least, hopefully, until next spring, we won't have to, you know, trust our suspensions to not go out as we go over that thing. So thank you again. Counselor Burns.
Nothing.
Okay, Council President Bush.
So I was grumpy last week because the heat, because I left Texas to get away from it. And I've noticed this before, and I've heard the mayor make comments about, oh, it says it's gonna be 78 today, which means it's gonna be 89 today or whatever, you know, and I'm like, why is this? So we actually got online and started looking, and Toledo's weather is being reported from the Newport Airport. And I got to thinking, and I'm like, okay, if we go for a grant to get air conditioners for our most at-risk people, and the grant people look at our reported temperatures, they're not gonna believe that we're getting up in the 90s and close to 100 or going over 100, because the reported temperature is so desperately inaccurate. So I contacted NOAA and the National Weather Service, and they are supposed to be helping me get accurate temperature reporting for our area, because I'm like, that can change gardeners, like your growing number. I mean, everything is off of those reported numbers, and ours are so incredibly inaccurate. I have to think it affects the fire department too. I don't know, Larry, if you think it does or not for anything, but it
You just don't believe them.
well, But if we're talking to people outside of Toledo and trying to get grants or support or anything, and they look online, they're gonna be like, those people are totally exaggerating, and I want to have accurate numbers. So hopefully, I contacted the guy at NOAA National Weather Service, and he said they're getting back with me. They're interested in helping us. So I will let you guys know what happens. And this is my new little work that I'm carrying.
It's not funny because all of us locals have just got kind of complacent about it, like, yeah, add 10 degrees, you know?
I would hate for us to miss out on funding. We're only getting hotter.
I would throw out to you that since you have an in with the school,
Yeah,
they do like to work with their science departments and they may like to put a weather, sometimes they'll
That
put
would
the
be
weather
cool.
centers up at the schools.
yeah. And I know, I think there's an official weather station and temperature taker at the fire or at the police station because it shows up on their map. He had me go to this map and he's like, well, look at this and you have accurate, and I'm like, I don't want to have to go through like 5 pages of NOAA and National Weather Service pages to find accurate, like when online, all the things are reporting. So yeah, there were like 5 or 6 different locations listed in Toledo, and I think one was like at GP and one was at the police department, and I don't know, and one actually looked like it might be at the old radio station. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm working on that, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you can actually download an app. It's called Oregon Air.
Mhm.
And that's the one that refers, and if you click on the one that's sitting at the Toledo, it'll give you the ambient air temperature and all that, along with all of your pollution stuff as well.
So I have to tell you all that Council President Bush may look like the sweetest, merciful, goodness and light person
He
on
goes
the
this far and then it.
But you should have heard her last week in my ear, reminding me about how inaccurate our weather was. Grumpy does not quite reflect the tone of her voice. I will just say.
Well, let's
And
put
I
it this
told
way,
her-
you go through
Go
one
for it.
hot flash and then you
Oh,
can
yeah.
say whatever you want.
Yep.
Anything else, Kim?
That's
Anything else,
all.
Kim?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, she met
Um,
Daisy.
And I met Daisy, yes.
I do want to encourage any and all of you that can attend tomorrow night at 6 for the fentanyl march. In this county, one of the things that I keep trying to impress upon people outside of this county is that in the last 6 weeks, we've had 4 overdose deaths. Out of those 4 people, I can almost guarantee you that that person was known by at least half of the county. This isn't like what happens in Portland when, it's not the same impact. It's huge here. I had a player that I coached for 4 years that I've been in contact with on and off since he graduated school. He was one of the overdose deaths. And I'm telling you now, I don't want to see any more of them. And I hope that we can raise enough awareness that not only do we have Narcan available for people just to have, but also that if you want out of this, there are people here that will help you. And there are people here that care about you and will help you get off this track. And so I really hope that some of you can join the march tomorrow. We're going to have another one the following Thursday, and it will be out in the 18th and 18th Street area off of Sturdivant, out in that area. I just hope that some of you could attend that tomorrow. Frank, you can do what I did on the last one. I rode half of it on the gator that the fire department had. Because I banged my hip pretty hard coming off a curb and I had to get a ride. So there are ways to do it as much as you can. And I just encourage all of you to try and be there if at all possible. And let people know that this city council does care about you and wants you to have a better life. And so I leave that with you. And I'm sorry I'm missing Summer Festival. Doggone it, they had to schedule this at the same time. But I do know that the city's in good hands with all of you and our staff. I can't tell you how proud I am of them. That fire out on Sturdivant showed just what this city was made of. Like I said earlier, we have a great city and we need to promote it. We need to let people know that, you know, there still is a good small town America and we're it. And I hope that we can get people to understand and grasp that. I encourage you to come for Art, Oysters, and Brews at the end of the month. And if you can volunteer one day or the other to help sit the booth up front, that would be great. I know Lisa has some shirts available if you want to volunteer for amount of time. And I really hope that we all get into this. You know, there are still a lot of things we can do around here, and we're working at it. I mean, I have to tip my hat to this council. You guys are not a sit on your butt council, and that's awesome. You're willing to put in the work and look at all the ordinances and all the happy hoopla. Come ready next week for the our meeting on the 24th, because we're going to talk all things housing. And we're going to have to start getting up to speed because finally, the state is saying, unlike they did back in the turn of the century, that one size does not fit all. And so we're going to have more say in what we want our community to look like and how we want it to grow. And so one of those things is we're going to have to get up to speed on what housing means today. And hopefully we will be able to answer most, if not all of your questions next week, but come with them, right? You've heard stuff in the press or whatever, ask the questions. Staff and I will be happy to try and answer them for you. But I'm really looking forward to moving on and getting a lot of work done because you guys are doing great. I'm going to miss you all this weekend. But, you know, it's part of the job I signed up for. And with that,
Hey, there's one more thing. One more thing. That
Yes.
thing that we're supposed to look over and we're all supposed to prioritize our things. We need to remember to do our homework.
Yes. Yes. And with that, if I can get Council President Bush to bang that gavel, we'll be out of here. We're adjourned.